The screaming started at exactly 3:47 in the afternoon. Sarah Martinez was folding laundry in the living room when she heard her daughter's voice pierce through the quiet suburban air. It wasn't a playful scream. It wasn't the sound of children playing too rough. It was pure terror. She dropped the towel in her hands and ran to the back door. The yard was empty. The swing set stood motionless. The sandbox toys lay scattered exactly where they'd been 5 minutes ago. But her 6-year-old daughter, Sophie, was gone. And standing at the fence, frozen with her hand outstretched toward the latch, was her 8-year-old daughter Maya, her face white as paper, her eyes wide with something that looked like shock. "Maya!" Sarah's voice came out sharp with panic. "Where's Sophie? Where's your sister?" Maya turned slowly. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out first. Then, in a whisper so quiet Sarah almost didn't hear it, she took her. "Who took her?" "Maya, who took Sophie?" "The ice cream lady. She took Sophie." This is the story of what happened on that September afternoon in Riverside, California. A story about a little girl who disappeared without a trace, about a sister who saw everything but couldn't make anyone believe her, and about how 10 years of silence can finally break open with the truth. Riverside in 2002 was the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked, where kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on, where everyone knew their neighbors' names and watched out for each other's children. The Martinez family lived on Oakwood Drive, a tree-lined street on the north side of town where the houses were modest but well-kept, where families barbecued on weekends and kids played kickball in the street. Sarah Martinez was 34, a dental hygienist who worked 3 days a week at Dr. Patterson's office downtown. She had dark hair she wore in a neat bun, kind eyes that crinkled when she smiled, and a reputation for being the most organized parent at Oakwood Elementary. She volunteered for every bake sale, never missed a parent-teacher conference, and kept detailed schedules for both her daughters. Her husband, David Martinez, was 36, a contractor who ran his own small business. He was the type of father who built elaborate tree houses and showed up to every dance recital with flowers. Reliable, steady, the kind of man who fixed things before they broke. They had 2 daughters who were as different as night and day. Maya was 8 years old, serious and observant. She had her mother's dark eyes and her father's quiet intensity. She read above her grade level, kept a journal filled with careful observations about the world around her, and had a habit of noticing things other people missed. Her teachers called her mature for her age and remarkably perceptive. Sophie was 6, all energy and sunshine. Blonde curls that bounced when she ran, a gap-toothed smile, and an infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. She was fearless, always the first to try the highest slide, always volunteering to go first in games. She made friends instantly, trusted everyone, and believed the world was full of magic and possibility. The girls shared a bedroom at the back of the house, bunk beds with matching butterfly quilts. Maya slept on top, Sophie on the bottom. They fought like all sisters fight, over toys and turns, and who got to choose the movie. But they were inseparable. Maya read to Sophie every night before bed. Sophie drew pictures for Maya to tape on her side of the room. That September day started like any other. Sarah made pancakes for breakfast. David left for a job site at 7. The girls watched cartoons while Sarah cleaned the kitchen. It was warm, 78 degrees by noon, the kind of perfect California day that made you forget summer was ending. After lunch, Sarah sent the girls outside to play while she folded laundry. The backyard was fenced, safe. From the living room window, she could see them. Maya was reading under the oak tree. Sophie was making mud pies in the sandbox. Everything was normal. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. Sarah would replay those minutes for the rest of her life. She looked out the window at 3:45 and seen both girls. Maya under the tree, Sophie in the sandbox. She'd turned away to fold a sheet. Turned back 2 minutes later. Both girls were still there. She reached for another towel. Started folding. That's when she heard the scream. When she ran outside, Maya was at the fence and Sophie was gone. Maya, what happened? Tell me right now, what happened? Maya's voice was shaking. The ice cream lady came. She had a truck. It played music. Sophie ran to the fence. What ice cream lady? What truck? It was white. It played music like the ice cream trucks. She stopped in the alley. Sophie heard the music and ran over. Sarah's hands were shaking. Did you see where they went? Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face. Sophie climbed over the fence. The lady helped her. They got in the truck. It drove away that way. She pointed down the alley. What did the lady look like? I don't know. She was wearing a big coat and sunglasses. And a hat. I couldn't see her face. Sarah was already running. She ran through the back gate into the alley. Empty. She ran to the corner, looked both ways. Nothing. No white truck. No music. No Sophia. She ran back to the house, grabbed the phone, dialed 911 with trembling fingers. My daughter is missing. Someone took her. She's 6 years old. She just got into a white truck with a woman. Please, you have to help me. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. Ma'am, I need you to stay where you are. Officers are on the way. How long has your daughter been missing? Sarah looked at the clock. 3:50. 5 minutes. Maybe less. And you said she got into a truck willingly? My other daughter saw it. She said Sophie heard music and climbed the fence. A woman helped her into a white truck. How old is your other daughter? She's 8. And she saw this happen? Yes. She saw everything. Please, you have to find them. That truck could be anywhere by now. The first police car arrived 6 minutes later. Then another. Then another. Within 15 minutes, Oakwood Drive was filled with flashing lights. Officers went door to door. Did anyone see a white truck? Did anyone hear ice cream truck music? Did anyone see a 6-year-old blonde girl? Nobody had seen anything. Officer James Chun was the first to interview Maya. He knelt down, so he was eye level with her, spoke gently. Maya, I need you to tell me everything you remember. Take your time. Maya took a shaky breath. Sophie and I were playing outside. I was reading. She was making mud pies. Then I heard music. What kind of music? Like ice cream truck music. That tinkling sound they play. Where was it coming from? The alley. Behind our fence. What did you do? I looked up. Sophie heard it too. She got really excited. She loves ice cream trucks. She ran to the fence. Then what happened? A white truck was stopped in the alley. A lady was standing next to it. She waved at Sophie. What did the lady look like? Maya squeezed her eyes shut, trying to remember. She was wearing a big, puffy coat, like a winter coat, and sunglasses, and a baseball cap. Could you see her hair? No, the hat covered it. Was she tall or short? I think tall. Taller than my mom. What happened next? Sophie tried to climb the fence. It's too high for her, but she tried. The lady helped her over. Then they got in the truck and drove away. Officer Chun made notes. Which direction did the truck go? Maya pointed. That way, toward the main street. Did Sophie seem scared? This question made Maya pause. She thought hard. No, she seemed excited, like she thought she was getting ice cream. Did the lady say anything? I don't know. I couldn't hear. The music was playing. Did you see anyone else in the truck? Maya shook her head. I couldn't see inside. The windows were dark. Is there anything else you remember? Anything about the truck? Any words on it? Any pictures? Maya thought hard. It was just white. No pictures. But it was old. It looked rusty. Officer Chun thanked her, then spoke with Sarah and David, who had rushed home the moment Sarah called him. We're treating this as an abduction. We've issued an alert for a white commercial truck, possibly an ice cream vendor vehicle, with a female driver. Every officer in the county is looking. David's voice was hoarse. But ice cream trucks have permits, right? They're registered? You can find them. We're checking that now. But we need to consider the possibility that this wasn't a real ice cream truck. The music could have been recorded, played from any vehicle. Sarah felt her legs go weak. You mean someone pretended to be an ice cream truck to lure children? We don't know yet. We're exploring all possibilities. The first 24 hours were chaos. Police searched every street in a 5-mile radius. They checked with every registered ice cream vendor in the county. They interviewed every neighbor, every person who'd been on Oakwood Drive that afternoon. Nobody had seen a white truck. Nobody had heard ice cream truck music. Nobody had seen Sophie. The news media picked up the story immediately. 6-year-old girl abducted from backyard in Riverside. Sophie's school photo appeared on every channel. Blonde curls, gap-toothed smile, wearing her favorite purple shirt. The image burned into the consciousness of everyone in California. Volunteers organized search parties. Hundreds of people combed through parks, vacant lots, drainage ditches. They put up flyers on every street corner. Sophie Martinez, missing since September 12, 2002. If you have any information, please call. The FBI got involved on day 2. Special Agent Rebecca Torres took over the investigation. She was in her 40s, experienced with child abduction cases, and she had a reputation for being thorough and relentless. She interviewed Maya 3 times in the first week. Each time, Maya told the same story. The music, the white truck, the lady in the coat and sunglasses. Sophie climbing the fence. The truck driving away. Agent Torres believed Maya was telling the truth as she understood it. But she also knew that 8-year-olds were not always reliable witnesses. They got details confused. They mixed up what they saw with what they imagined. They filled in gaps with their best guesses. The problem was, without any corroborating evidence, Maya's account was all they had. No neighbors had heard music. The houses on either side of the Martinez home had been empty that afternoon. The elderly couple across the alley had been inside watching television with the windows closed. No traffic cameras had captured a white truck in the area. The nearest camera was 6 blocks away, and the footage showed dozens of white vehicles that afternoon, none that could be definitively linked to the abduction. No ice cream vendors reported anything unusual. Most operated in commercial areas, not residential alleys. None matched the description of the truck or the woman. The investigation expanded. Police looked into registered sex offenders in the area. They interviewed known child predators. They followed hundreds of tips that led nowhere. Someone thought they saw a white truck at a gas station. Someone else reported a woman in sunglasses acting suspiciously at a park. Every lead was checked. Every lead went cold. Sarah stopped eating. She stopped sleeping. She sat by the phone, waiting for ransom demands that never came. She drove through the city for hours, scanning every face, every vehicle, hoping to see Sophie. David threw himself into the search. He printed flyers, organized volunteer teams, appeared on news programs begging for information. He couldn't sit still, couldn't stop moving. If he stopped, he'd have to think about what might be happening to his daughter. Maya retreated into silence. She stopped playing, stopped reading. She sat in the bedroom she'd shared with Sophie, staring at the empty bottom bunk, replaying that afternoon over and over in her mind. She knew what she saw. She told the police everything, but she could hear the doubt in their voices. She could see it in their faces. They smiled at her kindly, but she knew they didn't fully believe her. At school, other kids whispered. They said Maya must have made it up. They said if there was really an ice cream truck, other people would have heard it. They said Maya probably just didn't see what really happened, that Sophie probably ran away and Maya invented the truck lady to avoid getting in trouble. Maya stopped talking about what she saw. What was the point? Nobody believed her anyway. 3 months passed, then 6, then a year. The FBI investigation continued, but the leads dried up. Agent Torres moved on to other cases. The local police kept the file open, but there was nothing new to investigate. The media attention faded. Sophie's case became another tragic statistic. The Riverside girl who vanished. The child who was there 1 minute and gone the next. Sarah and David's marriage crumbled under the weight of grief and guilt. They barely spoke to each other. When they did, it was about Sophie. Should they have watched more carefully? Should they have never let the girls play outside alone? Could they have prevented this? They separated after 2 years. Divorced after 3. David moved to another city, Couldn't bear to live in the house where he'd lost his daughter. Sarah stayed. Couldn't bear to leave in case Sophie somehow found her way home. Maya grew up in the shadow of her sister's disappearance. She changed schools after the other kids wouldn't stop asking questions. She learned to avoid talking about Sophie, learned to change the subject when people asked if she had siblings. But she never forgot what she saw that day. The white truck, the music, the lady in the sunglasses and coat. Sophie's excited face as she climbed the fence. Maya knew what she saw, and she knew nobody believed her. 10 years passed. Maya was 18 now, a senior in high school. She'd grown into a quiet, serious young woman who kept to herself. She had a few close friends, but didn't talk about her past. When people asked about her family, she said it was complicated and changed the subject. She still lived with her mother in the house on Oakwood Drive, though Sarah talked about moving every few months. Maya knew her mother couldn't leave. Not while Sophie was still missing. Not while there was still a chance. September 12th, 2012. 10 years exactly since Sophie disappeared. Maya woke up that morning knowing what day it was. She always knew. Her mother would spend the day looking at old photos, crying quietly in Sophie's room, which Sarah had kept exactly as it was the day she vanished. David would call in the evening, and he and Sarah would talk for a few minutes in the strained, careful way they'd learned to speak to each other. Maya got dressed and went downstairs. Her mother was already at the kitchen table, Sophie's school photo in her hands. "I'm going out for a while," Maya said quietly. Sarah looked up, her eyes red. "Where?" "Just for a drive. I need to clear my head." Sarah nodded. She understood. Anniversaries were hard for Maya, too. Maya got in her car, an old Honda her father had bought her for her 16th birthday, and started driving with no particular destination in mind. She just needed to move, to think, to remember. She found herself driving through the old neighborhood, down streets she and Sophie used to ride bikes on, past the park where they played on the swings, past the elementary school they'd both attended. And then she saw it. A white truck, old and rusty, parked in a lot of small strip mall. It wasn't an ice cream truck exactly, but it was similar. A commercial vehicle, the kind that could have been converted for vending. Maya's heart started pounding. She pulled into the parking lot, parked a few spaces away, stared at the truck. It probably wasn't the same one. It had been 10 years. What were the odds? But something made her get out of her car. Something made her walk closer. The truck was definitely old. The white paint was faded and peeling. There was rust along the bottom panels. The windows were tinted dark, just like she remembered. Maya's hands were shaking. She walked around to the back of the truck, and there, painted over but still faintly visible beneath newer paint, she could see words, sweet treats, ice cream. Her breath caught in her throat. This was it. This was the truck. She was sure of it. She looked around the parking lot. The truck was parked in front of a small grocery store. Maya pulled out her phone, took pictures of the truck from every angle, made sure to get the license plate. Then she went into the store. The clerk was a teenage boy, maybe 16, looking bored behind the counter. "Excuse me," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. "That white truck in the parking lot. Do you know who it belongs to?" The boy glanced toward the window. "That old thing? Yeah, Mrs. Chun. She comes in here every week to buy supplies." "Mrs. Chun? Yeah, Linda Chun. She lives a few blocks from here. Uses the truck for her catering business or something." Maya's mind was racing. "Do you know her address?" The boy gave her a strange look. "Ooh, no. Why? It's important. Please. Do you know where she lives?" "I think it's on Maple Street, but I don't know the number." Maya thanked him and left. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. She dialed 911. "I need to report information about a cold case. The Sophie Martinez abduction. From 2002. The dispatcher sounded skeptical. "Ma'am, what kind of information?" "I'm Maya Martinez, Sophie's sister. I was the witness 10 years ago. I just found a truck. The truck that took her. I'm looking at it right now." There was a pause. "You found a vehicle you believe was involved in your sister's abduction?" "Yes. It matches exactly what I described 10 years ago." White commercial truck, rusty old, and it belongs to someone named Linda Chun. Another pause. Where are you right now? Maya gave the address of the strip mall. Please send someone. I have pictures. I have a license plate. This is the truck. I know it is. 2 patrol cars arrived 15 minutes later. One of the officers was young, couldn't have been more than 25. The other was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and tired eyes. His name tag said Williams. Maya showed them the truck, showed them the pictures on her phone. This is it. This is what I saw 10 years ago. Officer Williams examined the truck carefully. Miss Martinez, I remember your sister's case. I was one of the officers who responded that day. Maya looked at him with a mixture of hope and desperation. Then you remember what I told you. The white truck with ice cream music. This is it. Williams walked around the truck slowly. It's certainly old enough, and it matches the general description. But there were a lot of white trucks 10 years ago. How can you be sure this is the one? I just know. I've never forgotten what it looked like. The rust along the bottom, the dark windows. This is it. The younger officer ran the license plate. Registered to Linda Chun, address on Maple Street. Williams radioed it in. We need to contact Detective Morrison. He's handling cold cases now. This needs to be investigated properly. Maya felt a surge of frustration. Can't we just go to her house? Can't we question her? Miss Martinez, we can't just show up at someone's house and accuse them of child abduction based on a 10-year-old sighting and a truck that matches a general description. We need to do this right. But Williams made calls. Within an hour, Detective Frank Morrison arrived, a stocky man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense manner. He'd been a junior detective when Sophie disappeared, had worked the case for years before it went cold. He listened to Maya's story, examined the truck, ran the information. Linda Chun, age 62, no criminal record, lives alone, runs a small catering business. I want to talk to her, Maya said. I want to see her face. Morrison shook his head. Not yet. If this is real, if she's involved, we can't spook her. We need to build a case first. It's been 10 years. How much more time does my sister have? Morrison's voice softened. Maya, I know how hard this is, but we have to be smart. We'll investigate Linda Chun quietly. We'll look into her background, her history. We'll surveil her. If there's any connection to Sophie's disappearance, we'll find it. Maya wanted to scream. She wanted to run to Linda Chun's house and demand answers. But she forced herself to nod. How long will it take? Give us a few days. We'll move as fast as we can. Those few days felt like an eternity. Maya couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She'd kept quiet for 10 years. And now that she'd finally found something, she had to wait while the police investigated at their own pace. She told her mother what she'd found. Sarah didn't know whether to hope or to prepare for more heartbreak. Are you sure, Maya? Are you absolutely sure? I'm sure, Mom. I've never been more sure of anything. Detective Morrison worked quickly. He pulled Linda Chun's background, her financial records, her phone records. He discovered that she'd lived in Riverside in 2002, had lived just 3 blocks from Oakwood Drive. She'd owned the white truck since 1998, had used it for various small business ventures over the years. But there was no evidence of wrongdoing, no connection to Sophie, no suspicious activity. Morrison obtained a warrant to search the truck. They went through it thoroughly, looking for any trace evidence, any sign that Sophie had been inside. They found nothing. The truck had been cleaned countless times over 10 years. Any evidence that might have existed was long gone. Morrison interviewed Linda Chun. She was a small woman, thin and frail at 62, with gray hair and glasses. She seemed confused by the questions, adamant that she'd never been involved in any abduction. That truck? Yes, I've had it for years. I used to sell ice cream from it back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I stopped that business in 2003. The truck's just been sitting in my garage mostly. I use it occasionally to transport catering supplies. Were you operating the ice cream business in September of 2002? Linda thought about it. I think so, yes. I didn't stop until the following year. Do you remember working in the Oakwood Drive area? I worked all over Riverside. I might have been there. I don't remember specifically. Do you remember September 12th, 2002? Linda shook her head. That was 10 years ago. I don't remember specific dates. Morrison showed her Sophie's picture. Do you recognize this girl? Linda studied the photo carefully, then shook her head. No, should I? This is Sophie Martinez. She was abducted from her backyard on Oakwood Drive on September 12, 2002. A witness reported seeing her get into a white ice cream truck with a woman matching your general description. Linda's face went pale. You think I took that child? I would never. I've never hurt anyone in my life. Morrison pressed harder. The witness described a woman in a heavy coat and sunglasses, driving a white truck playing ice cream music. That matches your truck and your business. Lots of ice cream vendors wore coats and sunglasses. It gets hot in those trucks. And lots of trucks played music. That doesn't mean it was me. Morrison had to admit she had a point. The description was generic. Without physical evidence or a more specific identification, he had nothing solid. He brought Maya in to view a photo lineup. 6 women, all around the right age, all with similar builds. Linda Chun was one of them. Maya studied each face carefully. She'd been 8 years old 10 years ago. The woman she'd seen had been wearing sunglasses and a hat, her face mostly hidden. Maya pointed to Linda Chen's photo. I think it's her. The build is right. The height. But I can't be 100% sure. I couldn't see her face that day. Morrison sighed. That's not enough for an arrest. We need more. But they couldn't find more. Linda Chen's house was searched with her permission. They found nothing suspicious. No signs of Sophie. No children's items. Nothing that connected her to the abduction. Her neighbors described her as quiet, kind, a little odd, but harmless. She went to church every Sunday, volunteered at the library, lived alone after her husband died in 2005. The investigation seemed to hit another dead end. But Maya wouldn't let it go. She's lying. I know she is. Something about her isn't right. Morrison pulled her aside. Maya, I want to believe you. But wanting something to be true doesn't make it true. We've investigated Linda Chen thoroughly. There's no evidence. Then find evidence. Talk to her again. There has to be something. We've talked to her 3 times. Her story hasn't changed. And without evidence, we can't hold her or charge her. Maya felt the familiar frustration of not being believed. She was 18 now, not 8, but it didn't matter. They still doubted her. She made a decision. If the police couldn't find evidence, she would. Over the next week, Maya began watching Linda Chen's house. She parked down the street, watched the woman come and go. Linda kept a quiet routine. Grocery shopping on Tuesdays. Church on Sundays. Library on Thursdays. Maya felt like she was losing her mind. Was she really doing this? Was she really stalking an innocent 62-year-old woman based on a 10-year-old memory? But something kept her there. Some instincts she couldn't name. On the 8th day of watching, Maya saw something that made her heart stop. Linda Chun was in her backyard, and she was burning something in a metal barrel. Maya watched through binoculars as Linda fed papers into the fire, one by one, watching them curl and blacken. It could have been anything. Old bills, junk mail. But why burn them? Why not just throw them away? Maya called Morrison immediately. She's burning documents in her backyard. Right now. Morrison sounded tired. Maya, that's not illegal. People burn trash. Or they burn evidence. Please, you have to come look. Morrison did come, but by the time he arrived, the fire was out and Linda Chun was back inside her house. Morrison knocked on her door, asked about the fire. Linda seemed puzzled. I was burning old receipts and papers. I do it every few months. Is that a crime? No, ma'am. We just wanted to check. After they left, Morrison turned to Maya. This has to stop. You can't harass this woman. If you keep this up, she could get a restraining order against you. She's hiding something. I know she is. Based on what? Your feeling? Maya, I understand you want answers. But we can't arrest people based on feelings. Maya drove home in tears. 10 years ago, nobody believed her because she was a child. Now nobody believed her because she had no proof. But then Morrison made one more attempt. He went back through Linda Chun's background one more time, digging deeper. And he found something. In 1995, Linda Chun had been reported to Child Protective Services. A neighbor had called, concerned about a little girl who'd been staying with Linda. The neighbor said the girl seemed scared, said Linda kept her inside all the time, didn't let her play with other children. CPS investigated. The girl turned out to be Linda's niece, staying with Linda temporarily while her mother dealt with a family emergency. The case was closed. No abuse found, but it established something. Linda Chun had a history, however brief, of keeping a child isolated. Morrison dug further. He found that Linda's husband had died in 2005, but before his death, he tried to divorce her. The court records mentioned irreconcilable differences and concerning behavior regarding children. It wasn't much, but it was something. Morrison brought Linda in for another interview, this time at the station. He was more direct. "Mrs. Chun, I need to ask you something. Did you ever have Sophie Martinez in your truck?" Linda's hands were shaking. "No, I told you. I've never seen that child." "Then why did your husband try to divorce you over your concerning behavior regarding children?" Linda went very still. "That's private. That's not your business. It becomes my business when a child goes missing and you own a truck that matches the witness description." Linda's lawyer, who'd arrived by this point, put his hand on her arm. "You don't have to answer that." But Linda was rattling. Something in her expression changed. "I didn't hurt her," she whispered. The room went silent. Morrison leaned forward. "Didn't hurt who, Mrs. Chun?" "The girl. Sophie. I didn't hurt her. I just wanted to help her." The confession spilled out slowly, painfully. Linda Chun had been driving her ice cream truck through neighborhoods that September day in 2002. She'd stopped in the alley behind Oakwood Drive when she saw a little blonde girl alone in a backyard, playing in the sandbox. Linda had lost a daughter 20 years earlier, a little girl named Emma who died of leukemia at age 6. Linda had never recovered from that loss. When she saw Sophie, with her blonde curls and bright smile, something inside her broke. She turned on the music, waited. Sure enough, the little girl heard it and came running to the fence. Linda told herself she just wanted to give Sophie some ice cream. Just wanted to talk to her for a minute. Just wanted to pretend, for a moment, that Emma was still alive. She helped Sophie over the fence. Sophie was excited, chattering about her favorite flavors. Linda gave her an ice cream cone, and they sat in the truck talking. But then Linda made a decision she couldn't take back. She started driving. She told herself she'd bring Sophie back. She'd just drive around for a little while, enjoy this little girl's company, then return her safely. No harm done. But Sophie started crying. She wanted her mother. She wanted to go home. Linda panicked. She drove to her house, brought Sophie inside, tried to calm her down. She gave her more ice cream, turned on cartoons, promised everything would be okay. But Sophie wouldn't stop crying. She was scared. She wanted her family. Linda kept her in the spare bedroom. She planned to take her back that night, after dark when nobody would see. She'd drop her off nearby, let her walk home, act like nothing had happened. But the news was everywhere. Amber Alerts, police searching, Sophie's picture on every channel. Linda realized she couldn't return Sophie without being caught. She'd be arrested. She'd go to prison. So she kept her. For 3 days, she kept Sophie in that spare bedroom. She fed her, read to her, tried to make her comfortable. She told Sophie her mother knew she was here, that everything was fine. But Sophie was smart. She knew something was wrong. On the 3rd night, Sophie got sick. A fever, vomiting, listlessness. Linda didn't know what to do. She couldn't take Sophie to a hospital without being caught. She gave her children's medicine, tried to bring the fever down. But Sophie got worse. By the 4th morning, she was barely conscious. Linda finally understood she had to get help, had to take Sophie to a hospital no matter the consequences. But when she went to the spare bedroom that morning, Sophie wasn't breathing. The fever had been pneumonia. Untreated, it had progressed too fast. Sophie died in that spare bedroom, alone and afraid, for days after she'd been taken. Linda Chun sat in the interrogation room, tears streaming down her face. I didn't mean for her to die. I just wanted to keep her for a little while. I was going to bring her back. I swear I was going to bring her back. Morrison's voice was hard. Where is she now? Where's Sophie's body? Linda told him. She'd buried Sophie in a remote area of the San Bernardino National Forest, about 60 miles from Riverside, a place she used to hike with her husband, a quiet spot under a grove of pine trees. Morrison called Maya and Sarah immediately. We have a confession. Linda Chun admitted to taking Sophie. Sarah's scream could be heard through the phone. Is she alive? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Morrison's silence told her everything. I'm sorry, he finally said. Sophie died 4 days after she was taken. Linda Chun buried her in the National Forest. We're organizing a recovery team now. Maya felt the world tilt. For 10 years, she'd held on to hope. Hope that Sophie was alive somewhere, that she'd come home. Even when everyone else had given up, Maya had hoped. Now that hope was gone, the recovery team found Sophie's remains exactly where Linda Chun said they'd be. A small grave under the pine trees, marked with a circle of stones. Sophie Martinez had been 6 years old when she died. She'd been gone for 10 years before anyone knew the truth. Linda Chun was arrested and charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and manslaughter. She pleaded guilty to all charges. The prosecutor argued for the maximum sentence. At the sentencing hearing, Maya testified. She stood in front of the court, 18 years old, and told them about the little sister she'd lost. I saw what happened that day, she said. I told the police everything. But nobody believed me because I was 8 years old. If someone had believed me, then, if someone had investigated Linda Chun 10 years ago, my sister might have been found. She might have gotten medical help. She might have survived. Maya looked directly at Linda Chun. You took my sister. You lied about it for 10 years. And you let my family suffer, wondering what happened to her, hoping she'd come home. You're not just guilty of taking Sophie. You're guilty of stealing 10 years of truth from us. The judge sentenced Linda Chun to 25 years in prison. Sarah and David Martinez buried their daughter in a proper ceremony, 10 years after she'd been taken. The entire town of Riverside came to the funeral. Sophie's elementary school teachers, neighbors from Oakwood Drive, strangers who'd followed the case for a decade. Maya stood between her parents, her hand in her mother's, watching as they lowered Sophie's small casket into the ground. She thought about all the years she'd spent doubting herself, wondering if maybe everyone was right, and she'd imagined the ice cream truck, the lady in the coat, the music. But she hadn't imagined it. She'd been right all along. After the funeral, Detective Morrison approached Maya. I owe you an apology, he said. We should have believed you from the beginning. If we had, maybe we would have found Linda Chun sooner. Maya nodded. She appreciated the apology, but it didn't change anything. Sophie was still gone. In the years that followed, Maya became an advocate for child witnesses. She spoke at police training seminars, taught officers about the importance of listening to children, about taking their testimony seriously even when it seemed unlikely or incomplete. She finished college, got a degree in criminal justice, went to work for a nonprofit that helped families of missing children. And she never forgot her little sister, the 6-year-old girl with blonde curls and a gap-toothed smile who loved ice cream and believed the world was magic. Sophie Martinez was taken in 2002. Her sister saw what happened, but wasn't believed for 10 years. 10 years of wondering. 10 years of hoping. 10 years of the truth being dismissed because the only witness was a child. This story is a reminder of something we often forget. Children see things we miss. They notice details we overlook. And when they tell us something is wrong, we need to listen. Maya Martinez was 8 years old when her sister was taken. She told the police exactly what happened. But it took 10 years for anyone to believe her. 10 years too late. If a child tells you they saw something, believe them. Take their words seriously. Investigate thoroughly, no matter how young the witness. Because sometimes A child's voice is the only one telling the truth. And sometimes, believing them could mean the difference between finding a missing child and losing them forever. Have you heard stories like this? Do you believe children make reliable witnesses? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the smallest voices sometimes carry the biggest truths. Listen carefully. Believe the children.